What what do you see? I mean, I see some things, but I'm not. I don't feel like I have anything exciting yet that I've uncovered for this week. I mean, it's like a strong field mixed with a weak field. I don't really know.
Pricing's definitely interesting this week. Um, it's insane how many guys are priced at or below like the 6,000 mark too. I don't think I've ever seen that before, honestly. But honestly, I think this is going to be an easy week for me in terms of building lineups after this because like the guys that I like stand out pretty fairly easily to me, which I don't know is a good sign for ownership purposes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I figured out my stack at the top. Again, making ownership a huge consideration in that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a fun week this week. So softer on the pricing, make it easier for the lineups, at least on paper, to look nicer. And
I
I
mean,
think there's a lot of variations you could go through.
there's 100 lineups. I mean, not lineups. 100 players under 7,000.
Is that what it is?
It's
Yeah.
100 players. Yeah. There's 47 people above and 100 people below 7,000. So definitely.
Definitely a pyramid structure this week we got going on.
But um, so let's get right into it. I mean, we don't see any questions out there right now. So obviously what we're looking to talk about is data, but until we get some hard data questions, I mean, who are you looking at in terms of a core, and then maybe we can break down why you're there and why we like that option.
Well, you know where I start every week, and that's looking at the round by round data. And I put a tweet out earlier about a guy that's over the last 2, 4, 8, and 12 rounds, he's ranked 15th in the field, first, and second, and that's my man Patrick Reed, whose course history doesn't necessarily jump off the table at people, and he falls in between that price range where he's there. Even though Rose missed a cut last week, who I do like again this week, Rose. I feel like a lot of people are going to be contrarian for the sake of or trying to be contrarian for the sake of playing him off of a missed cut. So I like where Reed falls in the pricing structure, and I think of those guys towards the top, he should be on the lower end of the ownership. And I'm going to go right with you to the second guy that I think is going to be at the lower end of the ownership up there too. That's Stenson. And again, another guy that has played the course before. His history will push people away. And I think that's a pretty solid stack considering the ownership that you'll get out of those two at the top. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Stenson is a real solid play. I feel like he has been, all year. I'm not sure where the ownership's going to be on him because you got Rose coming off a letdown there and Scott right next to him. I feel like, unless people aren't really on Scott, I feel like that's the more obvious play if you're just going by the numbers in that price range. But I think Stenson's probably the better, GPP play like you're saying. Reed, I like a lot too because he's kind of just like feeding off that spot, and people just haven't been on him. It's like he has been playing well.
And you know why I love Reed too, and it's the same reason why I love Rose as well. And this is just going back to the data. When I'm looking at the round by round stats, and I see that Reed's success and form over the past 12 weeks. And I also look at Rose's, they've both been striking the hell out of the ball. Then if you go and look at their putting data, it leaves a lot to be desired. And you know what? All that tells me is that they're still posting these numbers with poor putting performances. Then you know what? There's still a lot of room for them to improve it and climb up that leaderboard even more. That's why I really think that Reed, even though he hits the ball. I mean, he could bomb the ball, but not like some other guys on here. It doesn't kind of fit that mold like the Rory type. I think that this is probably the hottest he's been training to win a tournament, pick up his first win of the year.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy I like for the GPP. I haven't had to fit him in any of the cash lineups that you and I, obviously we're going to start doing ourselves this week. I haven't fit him in much there, but what do you think? You mentioned him kind of briefly. What do you think about Rory right now? I mean, he's that price discrepancy from the top to the next tier is pretty extreme, but I like him. I mean, he's playing pretty well. Obviously, this is a course he's had a significant amount of success. He won here Like 1 year. What, last year was it? Before I said that out loud.
Yeah, no, he won. He set course records last year.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong. Yeah, he won last year. He's finished. He's like outside of that weird 2011. He's like Charlie Hoffman on steroids at Valero, Texas. Like, he's got a 1, a 2, a 10, an 8, a 1, and he's got that random 20, miscut in 2011. Like, the price is kind of crazy, and it's definitely been tough to make some teams around him. But I have been able to make a team or two with McIlroy and Stenson that I did like. So, what do you think? Do you think it's too expensive?
I think like the stats stack up. There's no reason not to be on Rory, except for the simple fact that course history is undeniable, and he and the fact that he is priced above everybody else. I think that obviously Vegas is putting a lot of odds on him winning the tournament this week. So again, I think that he could very easily win the tournament. I think that he'd be a great play if you're looking for a guy that has everything, all the measurables to compete and finish in the top here. But again, his ownership for GPP purposes scare me a little bit. Not really scare me, but push me off him. I just think that there's so little room for error when you roster a guy at the top like that at that price that's probably still going to command a high ownership percentage. That I think there's a better probability of you being able to give yourself a chance of winning a GPP by fading him and looking elsewhere, which will also save you money on other spots of your roster as well. So again, I think that all the measurables are there for him to be the favorite pick to win the tournament this week. Yes. But I think that a lot of people sharing that sentiment, and because of that, I'm going to bet against a Rory win and probably only have very, very minimal exposure from this week.
Gotcha. And I just sent another message out there, and I'll take this next question because I think he's definitely showing up some spots. But one thing I thought was interesting, and I'm kind of jumping back onto the course history train a little bit, with those last comments, and then I was off it with Louisiana, but. First timers have kind of not fared so well here. I don't know if you saw that tweet I posted. Other than Derek Ernst who had that win, the average finishing position for first timers for this field was pretty much a missed cut. It was like 77 or so. I thought that was kind of interesting. Some places have a little more success with first timers than that.
Well, to attest to that is. Simply look at the strength of this field compared to a lot of other fields we've seen lately. Like the pedigree of player competing this week. I mean, I know we've lost some guys probably due to extracurricular activities that they were scared were going to be exposed. But like the strength of field this week is obviously stronger than your standard run-of-the-mill, non-major, non-big-time PGA event. And I guess with that comes a harder chance or less of a likelihood of those first-timers to break through and win a tournament when the field is pretty strong like it is this week.
Yep, no, I definitely makes sense there. And then, we just got a question about Matsuyama. So my 2 cents on Matsuyama is he checks off all the boxes, but the only thing I noticed, he's a little worse on Bermuda when I was going through those splits, but other than that, the numbers make sense. I think he's going to have an ownership issue. I think there's going to be a lot of people paying the 9,300 for Matsuyama.
I agree. At first, before I did my my weekly kind of browsing of all the experts in the industry, seeing who they were touting, I was on Matsuyama, and mostly as a pivot away from Holmes, because obviously Holmes comes in form with solid course history and similarly priced. So I thought that a lot of people would just kind of gravitate towards Holmes, but it just seems like there's a lot of people on Matsuyama as well. So I think a lot of the shares in terms of ownership is going to be directed at that 9,000, 9,300 price point where you could find Holmes and Matsuyama. So again, so I think that the boxes are all checked there. But if you're looking to increase the likelihood and probability of you winning an event, then you might as well be looking elsewhere and find a guy that does have similar measurables with less ownership. And that could be jumping up to Patrick Reed at his price, 9,700. And I might be wrong, but I think that that would be a viable pivot off of those 2 guys as well.
Yeah. And I haven't seen the love because listen, I'm putting together a lot of the stuff, the data-wise stuff. I know you like to get in your your reports on what people are saying, and that's why you kill that aspect with the ownership. But one of the guys on here, you mentioned, I guess people are on Ollie Schneider, Hans, and or Jens. I don't know if you pronounce the J or not. But listen, I don't understand why as well, because he hasn't been crushing the Web.com tour. He had a good finish this past week, but other than that, he's kind of been just a solid Web.com, and in a field like this, there are just guys that are a little more seasoned on a track like this, which is can be demanding. So, what are your thoughts on that? Have you seen that kind of love that they're mentioning here?
I've seen it more on Twitter, and people kind of just floating his name around Twitter than on some of the actual expert, other industry players' articles. But yeah, I mean, based on that alone, I think his ownership will be elevated to a point where it's just not worth it for me. I'm not gonna put any stock into a Web.com tour player in an event that has plenty of other options of guys that are informed, priced in a similar price range. So that like the fact that people are talking about him, there's some chatter, is definitely going to push me away from him.
What are your thoughts on Woodland?
I love Woodland, but so does everybody else. So I'll definitely have some exposure to Woodland. Played well last week. He's been consistent this year so far, and I think this course fits him beautifully. So there's no reason not to like Woodland. One thing I do like is where he's priced. He's priced around some other guys that a lot of people are going to be on. So I'm hoping that his ownership will kind of be spread across those players. I think like Lovemark's right above him. You got some other bombers that should do well on this course right below him. So I do like Woodland. Again, I think a lot of people are on him. So I'm probably not going to put too much stock into him this week, but I think that it would be a mistake not to recognize the potential and ceiling he has here.
I think cash is where you're going to get the most out of Woodland.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. Definitely.
I think he'll probably be on a lot of the lineups that you and I are going to be doing together this week.
Yes, sir.
Well, how about Donaldson again? And I feel like I just keep jumping on this guy. I don't know why. I don't have any it's not like a Zach Woods, Harold Varner the third love affair. Every single week he just seems to make sense to me. I mean, he's making cuts. He's playing through tough field. I'm just waiting for him to pop. The only problem is he's putting very well. That's the thing about Donaldson right now.
Yeah. Looking through the micro data, nothing really. I mean, it was all solid, but nothing really kind of jumped off the page to overwhelm me. But I think that for Donaldson this week, you're talking about a pedigree, a guy who's a top-ranked golfer in the world, who got a decent amount of love last week, only to underwhelm in terms of the final output. So I think this would be a good buying opportunity if you like the stats and if you think all the measurables are there. And to be honest with you, I just haven't dove deep enough into his data to really be able to opine on that right now. But I think that definitely find him at lower levels this week than he did last week.
What about that's an interesting comment I got in there on Lovemark coming off the playoff loss. I mean, I don't have any reason for him to play poorly. I mean, the only thing is. Let me just see. He doesn't have. He's got 2 starts here.
He's got 2 missed cuts, I believe.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten it done here. And listen, I'm not saying that obviously he's playing as well this season as he's ever played before, and he's not like he's he's still in our third class for the most part. He's pretty much right in the middle-ish of our third class. So he's a guy that we have, but. Yeah, he hasn't performed that well at this track. The price, given how well he just finished, is really solid. I mean, 7,900, for a guy that's made 5 of 7 and just finished, tied for the lead in an event. Obviously, we were on him last week. I mean, the course history is just what's holding him back here, but the form's decent. The key stats are even better than the form.
I think you gotta throw his course history out the window this time around because he's obviously playing at a much higher level and he's a different golfer today.
That's what I said about.
Here's my hot take on Lovemark's pretty simple. The dude lost in a playoff last week at a course that is not nearly as good of a fit for him as this week is. So, with that said, I love him this week again. And again, just like Woodland sentiment, I think a lot of other people love him as well. I'm banking on the fact that, again, that ownership is going to be spread around the players at that price point, but there really is nothing not to salivate over on Jamie Lovemark this week. 4 par 5s, long course, strokes gained putting proved to be statistically significant, almost to the point where Tee to Green this week. He's one of the better putters on tour of those bombers. So again, better track for him this week. He lost in the playoff last week, so clearly the dude's in form, and I just don't think there's anything not to like about him, and he will definitely be littered amongst a lot of my lineups again this week.
Fair, that's fair. Let's see. I saw answer question. Yeah, I mean, On was interesting. I mean, a lot of people were on, and I think that's the first time that everyone was on.
And I think we were the only morons not on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing when he came up, we said that we thought he was a better play ownership-wise than Kazire, but we didn't really have him listed as a guy that we were in love with, and we thought he was kind of decent. But everyone else was on him, and it worked out. But I feel like that's a guy that anytime he shows up, people look at it and they think that's the sexy play. So I'm not I wasn't too surprised. Every time I see him, people talk about him, they think he's going to be good. But have you seen his putting numbers? The guy can't putt. he's another guy. I mean, he strikes the ball, but his numbers were bad. I was looking at the putting splits. He's negative on both ends.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly about On. He gets a lot of love because of how dominant he could be overseas. And what's interesting about On too is what you said that his putting splits were negative on both tracks.
Yeah, let me. I'll bring that up right now. That was the main thing. Let's see. Gotta fix that. Let's see, where is he? Yeah, so I mean, listen, the sample size is very small. He's got 12 starts on bent and 6 on Bermuda. The 6 on Bermuda, he's almost -3 strokes gained putting, and the 12 on bent, he's -5 strokes gained putting. So he is significantly better on Bermuda. Just so you know, the field strength gap is very, very significant there too. He's better on Bermuda, and the field strength average was 3.9, whereas the bent grass field strength is 5.6. So he's playing against better players, significantly better players on the bent grass greens. But they're both very negative. They're both extremely negative. I mean, he's only 57% and 52% from 5 to 10 feet. That might sound not bad for, say, me, but Stewart made every putt within 10 feet last week.
Yeah.
I think it was 42 for 42 was the stat. 57% on PGA Tour from 5 to 10 feet is going to lose you a lot of tournaments.
And you know what's crazy? I'm looking at this round-by-round data right now, and over his last 4 rounds, he's a positive 1.258. Over his last 2, he's a 2.288, which is actually kind of a red flag for me, because then if I look at the frequency of positive strokes gained putter rounds compared to negative, he's only got 3 positive compared to 5 negative. So a lot of last week might be due to the fact that his putter got abnormally hot, and you know me with hot putters and guys that like to revert back to the mean in terms of their historical putting performances. That probably pushed me away from him a little bit, because he might have just been the product of making a few more putts last week than he normally does, and I'm going to rest on my laurels in that his historical putting, for the most part, will prevail and trump. So it's interesting that you pointed it out, and definitely something that I would look deeper into before I decided how much weight I wanted to put into On this week.
So what else we got here? So what else, guys? I mean, we've got a couple guys on here. What do you guys feel about, what kind of questions you have? You want? I mean, we'll talk anything you want. Obviously, we're in it for all types of reasons. But if you want to talk data, if you want to ask, about some of the things that we do, you tell me. And Bobby and I are interested in going over it. Oh, right there. All right. Well, I can move on to just some of the things that I always like to get to. Looking at some of the R data, and what I got here is I got one person, and it's like the same person every freaking time he plays. That's 6 of 6 in our key stats, which are obviously strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained putting, par 5, average birdie or better, scrambling proximity, and then that odd 125 to 150 yard range crept into the numbers. And,
it's either one of two players. Can I guess?
Of course.
Is it either? I'm guessing either Scott or List.
Yeah, no, it's Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the numbers are still even with an average kind of after not winning 3-4 in a row. He's the numbers are crazy. I mean, for a guy that everyone was like, well, how's he gonna putt? He's 17th on tour in strokes gained putting over the last 12 events, which when you pair that with first in strokes gained tee to green,
you know what that gives you? 2 wins. That's
yeah, exactly. So he's hitting it 7 feet closer than the field from 125 to 150. You basically put a pitching wedge 9-iron in his hand, and it's like, joke. And he's chipping it over a foot closer than the field. He's birdieing 8% more holes in the field, and he's averaging a quarter of a stroke less on par 5s. Like, it's not even fair. Like what the guy's doing, it's like stats wise, you haven't seen anything like this in a long time. Obviously, he hasn't.
Does his Masters performance scare you at all?
No, I mean, because the numbers are still there. Like a few guys who were T20 or better last week. Who you got? Who do you like then? Waiting for one of the questions in there, Bobby. Does Rose scare you?
Rose?
Yeah.
No, Rose actually, I love Rose. He was one of the featured guys list. I watched him pretty much every day. And he just couldn't make a 10-foot putt. And you know what? Like I said, those numbers will balance out. And if you looked at how he actually stroked the ball last week, I'll bring up the data right here. Rose,
he's 110th in this field in strokes gained putting, and he's 212th on tour.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That's his issue. I mean, listen, the guy can't putt. He does everything but putt.
So mixing the fact that you got, that's one thing I was thinking about this week. When you have 4 reachable par 5s, I think the putting aspect is mitigated or less important in the sense because a lot of these guys that can strike the ball like a Justin Rose is normally getting on in 2 or relatively close to the green on those par 5s. So the whole putting aspect I think is kind of neutralized a bit. So and again, like I was just saying, if you look at his tee to green data from last week, he was plus 2.8 and plus 2.795 previous 4 rounds. So he was obviously getting there. He's gaining strokes against the field. It's just a matter of getting those 10 to 12-foot putts to fall. And I'll take my chances with a guy that's given himself those type of opportunities and that has won before, and bank on the fact that this time around more of those putts will begin to fall for him.
Yeah, and then got a question about Bill Haas, and yeah, he's not a guy that I have heard much about this week, but I do like him. I mean, he's a guy. He's got 3 out of 6 in the top 30 in this what's it called in the R data. We got him in right in our second class. He's 5 of 6 cuts recently. He's 6 of 10 cuts here, so he's had a ton of experience here. He's 15th in our recent form calculation, 29th in our key stats. Even the price is at 8,200. Our P gap is 3.04. For a guy of this quality, his trend score is 19th, which is, I like Bill Haas this week. I mean, he's not a guy that I'm looking to maybe feature as my core, but I'm definitely gonna have a little bit of exposure because
I think I could not agree with you more. Nobody is talking about him this week. Nothing about this tournament really sticks out or jumps out, nor does I know he had a high finish a few weeks back at when he was our favorite play of the week. But this is the type of event and buzz leading up to an event with Bill Haas where he makes for a great GPP play. You know, even if he doesn't work out, to get a guy of that pedigree who can very easily go out there and win this tournament at a very, very reasonable price and at good ownership levels, I think that he would make a fantastic GPP play this week. So I'm with you. I'm definitely going to have at least a few lineups with Bill Haas littered in there.
Are you rolling with CH3 in cash still?
Yeah, I mean, how could you not, right?
I mean, one of the questions was, he fits into some GPP lineups. I don't see him, I mean, his ownership's going to be in the double digits at least. But, I mean, listen, I don't understand what it is with him because obviously he's playing well this year, but I feel like every time I pop open, the survival guide, like obviously I create it, but while I'm creating it, I'm not, studying it. And every time I open it up, I'm like, oh, well, CH3, there he is in the top 10, 15 of our rankings. What's with his course history is like good at every course. I feel like the guy is like has been playing a phenomenal career, and obviously people aren't as excited about him. He's having an incredible year this year, 6 to 7 cuts, but he's 8 to 10 cuts at this course, and he's priced at a price that's he's averaging 10 points more than that. His trend rank is 13, which is incredible because for a guy that's been playing so well, it's really hard to kind of have that progression still, but he's actually getting better in most categories.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to like about CH3. The only thing that stood out to me a bit on the negative side, and people are going to be like, how is his negative, is that he putted very, very well the last time out, and I think 2 of his last 3 tournaments, he putted very, very well, above his standard average. So that scares me a little bit because in terms of being able to sustain the level of play he's at, he's going to have to obviously maintain that high level of putting for the most part. Well, with 4 par 5s, even if he doesn't putt it as well, I think he could still do enough tee to green to put himself in a good position to make easy birdies. So I think, I think he's a staple. He should be a staple in your cash lineups. And but again, he could miss a cut as could most people. So at his high ownership levels, which I do think he's going to have this week, I think he's better fit for your cash game plays. But you know what? It's hard to argue against putting him in either type of format.
And we got a question. If you look at the rankings, Griot is pretty high up there. Justin Thomas is up there a good amount. And one of the questions was, do we like him as much as the rankings are? And listen, Griot, I do like him based on the recent form and where he's been. He doesn't have the course history, and I obviously said earlier that couldn't be an issue. So it doesn't scare me enough to get off of him. But I think the only flaw is that he doesn't have any course experience. Forget the whether it's good or bad course history. I think that's the kind of conversation Bobby and I have been having is course experience more so than just positive course history. But yeah, I mean, I'm not obsessed with Griot. I don't think he's a safe play, but I always love when a guy like that shows up high in the rankings because we don't cherry pick the people to put in there. The model spits it out, and when they come up like that, it gives us something to look at because he's not a bomber of the ball. He's an accurate driver of the ball, which matters a little more than I think people are giving credit for at this course. Justin Thomas, he's been making cuts. He's only got 1 start here, and it was a really good finish. The key stats are kind of all right. So Justin Thomas, I probably have a little more faith in, even though Griot's ranked just a spot or 2 higher. But yeah, I don't have any reason to kind of say I don't trust the model this week. I mean, what are your thoughts on either of those guys?
I think you summed it up very well right there. Griot, like you said, he's gonna keep the ball in the fairway. He's gonna put himself in position to use his long irons on the longer par 4s and try to take advantage of the par 5s. It's gonna all come down to the putter for him as it usually does. If he sinks some putts this week, then I think he could squeak out a top 20, top 15. And again, where he's priced, he's he's the same price as Patrick Rogers, Patton Kizzire, and he's right below Woodland, DeChambeau, Chappell, and Lovemark. So he's priced around a lot of popular guys this week. So
I can see Griot being like 3% owned.
Exactly. So you know what? Just for the ceiling that he does carry with him, I think it makes sense for him to be to put him in some GPP lineups.
So
and Thomas again, yeah. Thomas, this is his first time back in quite some time. One thing that scares me about Thomas is that the last round at the RBC Heritage, his strokes gained putting was negative 8.639 strokes lost against the field. So I know that he's gonna do most of his damage tee to green, but those type of numbers with the flat stick do scare me a little bit. His last three of his last 4 rounds were all negative strokes gained putting. So and this week I think there are going to be a decent amount of birdies, and you're going to have to be able to hold some putts. And he's definitely, when I'm looking at that round by round data, scares me off of him a little bit.
It's fair. It's fair. Let's see what other questions here. Just reading through. Like Woodland back on Hearn and Stroud. Yeah, Hearn and Stroud. I don't really have much on. The Hearn kind of average across the board for me.
Who's this?
Hearn.
Oh, Hearn.
Yeah, nothing there really kind of excites me.
Hearn stood out to me a little bit. I mean, last week he obviously loves playing down in Louisiana, and the course history evidences that. So he had a pretty solid last week. But the week before, too, at Valero, which I don't believe he has historically crushed, he finished in the top 15. So he's got 2 top 20s in a row. His round-by-round data suggests that the guy's clearly in form. His price is I think he's wearing low 6s. Yes, at 6,100. And honestly, I haven't heard much about him this week, so Hearn might be a very sneaky play for GPPs. Let me just confirm his. I just want to see his tee to green data over the last couple of rounds.
Let me see who are some other some low price guys that were high up in our numbers.
Yeah, so over his last 4 weeks for Hearn, 10 of his 13 rounds he's gained strokes against the field tee to green. Over his previous 4 rounds, he's gained an aggregate of 5 strokes, and over his previous 8, he's gained an aggregate of 9.231. So, yeah, the dude's feeling great, and the numbers are showing for that. So there's no reason to believe that he can't continue it, and especially at a price like this, I think it's definitely worth owning some shares of David Hearn this week. Well, I didn't get a chance to look at his course history. Have you seen what he's done? Let me see this course. I'd actually love it if his course history was rather suspect, because then they'd push more people away from him. Yeah, so it looks like he's 3 of 5 here with the miscut last year. So again, he's played here the last 5 years. He's got that experience that we're talking about. It's not the type of experience that will jump off the page and attract people to him. So you know what? I think I appreciate who asked that question.
It was team course history. Packet boy.
I think team course history just put me on a guy that I am definitely going to throw in a lot of my GPPs this week now, just based on that simple analysis we just did.
There you go.
Thank you, Packet boy.
And he's been on us for a while. Packet boy. I was sending the original lineup optimizer.
I remember that. He's one of the original Dons.
Still on there. I was a long time ago before we even had anything else. And then who else we got here? One more question to jump on. Oh yeah, Sendin. I feel like people might be on him because I don't know if you saw, he's under he's 7 to 8 cuts here. His course history is just real solid. Let me get up the exact finishes so you know where he is. Yeah, I mean he's finished 22nd, 15th, 33rd, 32nd, 25th, 10th, 22nd, and he missed the cut on the number. Yeah, for 6,600. I mean, it's not what you expect to hear for 6,600.
Yeah, and I think that he's putting the lights out too right now. Let me see. Yeah, so 10 of his last 13 rounds, he's gaining strokes against the field on the green. His putting numbers are ridiculous. His last 2 rounds, 2.711 positive strokes gained putting. His last 4, 7.81. His last 8, 7.097. And his last 12, 8.559. So if this is a track that fits his eye and he could get from tee to green successfully with a putter like this, then there's I think that I would be surprised if Senden doesn't make a little noise this week.
Well, let's see. Let's look at the actual numbers. So he's got the 8 starts here. He's averaging 21.4 points against the field, which is normally a decent field. And yeah, if you look at his strokes gained tee to green, if anything, he's putted worse than he's hit it here. I mean, his strokes gained is 22nd on tour, and just so I can remind everyone what that means when we use that in our guide, that means anyone that has played in this event on tour is this ranking. So the worst player in the field is Harris English, who's ranked 454th. I'm sorry, that's in putting. 276. That was the putting one. Let me just reset it there. Yeah, like Wee Kim, Tyrone Van Aswegen. These guys, based on their won in couple events here, that also is included in strokes gained tee to green at this course only. So, to be ranked 22nd, that's just ahead of Ricky Fowler, to give you an idea in terms of strokes gained tee to green on this course. Strokes gained putting, he's kind of top half. So if he's putting lights out, he likes the way it fits his eye, like you're saying, it could pop. But I can't imagine people are going to be off of him with that course history that I just put out there.
No, yeah, especially at his price point, and just to reiterate his recent form putting as well. Yeah, he's second in the field over the last 4 rounds putting, and over his last 8, he is he's 5th. So yeah, I mean you're talking about form meets history. Meets not historically strong putter here, meets recently hot fire putter right now, and the cuts made percentage. I think that'll definitely attract a lot of people on him. But you know what? That just tells me he could be a staple for a lot of cash game plays at that price point.
So let's see what else here. What am I looking at? Oh, Aldridge. That's who they were asking about. Tyler Aldridge. He was a guy that I was on 2 weeks ago. This week.
We had some decent exposure to him last week. He cast some of our lineups for us.
Yeah. The last 2 weeks. He's been a guy. He's pretty much priced. He's actually priced below where he's been averaging price. I guess he's never going to be a guy that I'm going to say, oh, I'm all in on Tyler Aldridge. I mean, listen, he could be that guy, but he's not showing that right now. I mean, he's definitely shown some things in his trend recently that he's in a better place now than he's been most of the year. He's in our 3rd class. He doesn't have any course history here, which kind of concerns me, but he's still ranked 10th in our trend score. So, listen, he's made his last couple cuts. He's in a good spot. For 5,500, it's definitely a demanding course for a guy that's never played it before. But, for 5,500, if you sneak him through the cut again, you're paying the bill with that.
Yeah, 7 of 8 rounds, 2 positive strokes gained tee to green against the field. So that's over his last 4 weeks, and over his last 12 rounds. He is ranked he's ranked 17th in the field over his last 12 rounds tee to green. So he's getting the job done from tee to green, and if he could make some putts, then I would expect a similar finish to what he had last week. And at that price, there's a lot of roster flexibility that comes along with rostering a guy at that price, and he's definitely got the best tee to green game at that level, in my opinion. So he's definitely some guy I will put into some of my lineups at least.
Let's see. Who else?
You know, who's a guy that was intriguing me this week who I think could fly someone under the radar? At least I haven't heard people talking about him as much. What are your thoughts on Graham Dillette at 7,300?
Yeah, I saw him. That price, 7,400.
7,400.
Close enough. Again, I don't think anyone's gonna have him. I think there's a handful of people that are gonna have their ownership blow up in the mid sevens, and I don't think he's gonna be one of them. He's got no course history, but yeah, he's playing well. The price is really strong.
Like for a guy with his skill set, like in a course of this nature, even though he doesn't have any course history, I think he's definitely worth throwing into some of your GPP lines because a guy at 70, he's probably one of the better guys at that 7,400 price range that could finish top 5 in this tournament. So it makes no sense not to at least put him in some of your lineups, especially with his ownership levels, I think, at fairly reasonable levels for what we're looking for.
You're getting you and Zach apparently on the same wavelength because he's loving himself some Dillette right now.
Yeah, plus he's 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, he's made his last 4 cuts. He's over his last 12 rounds. He's gained an aggregate of 21.51 strokes tee to green in this field, which is good for 4th. So yeah, over the last 12 rounds, he's ranked 4th in the field in tee to green aggregate. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely coming in, striking the ball fairly well. If he can make some putts, I think that you could easily see that value of 7,400 pay off, especially with low ownership. And again, like I said, with 4 reachable par 5s, and this dude, the way he could bomb the ball, I think that even some of his putting woes will be mitigated by the fact that he will probably give himself fairly good birdie looks on a lot of those par 5s this week.
Yep. And then let's see. Zach wanted me to bring up Scott Pickme, but I mean, listen, he's got an okay start here, but
Zach, I'll tell you one thing. My favorite golf writer, Glasgow, put Pickney in as one of his sleeper picks. So you know what? I'm on board just because of that alone.
Fuck, because I was about to blast him, but I know who you're talking about. We're not going to give out the secret sauce on who Bobby's insider.
Yeah. So this dude, he's probably the only guy I really read thoroughly every single week, and this is just off the top of my head. I remember him saying in the article that last year, I believe Pinkney had a 68 and a 66 on Friday, Saturday. So he does know how to go low here. And I think at that price point, I think it's worth a flyer.
I just struggle with a guy that, he's made 2 of 8 cuts. He's missed his last 3. And one of his only 2 made cuts were at the Puerto Rico Open. So, I mean, listen, for 5,300, if he likes the course, and you can squeeze him in there, you're going to get a lot of value. I don't think he's going to be, he's not going to be owned. He's definitely a sleeper in that regard. So.
Yeah, like I said, that was none of my basis of was data driven for the most part. It was just based off his glass take on him.
So. But yeah, I mean, listen, 5,300. You throw him in a couple spots.
Have you looked at his R data? Let's see.
I will pop it open right now. Pinkney, our data. He is 205th in strokes gained tee to green, 153rd in strokes gained putting.
He's 62nd in driving distance, so that's I think that's what will be the intrigue for him this week.
Yeah, I mean he's averaging .02 strokes worse than the field in par 5, worse than birdie or better. I mean, if you want me to look at our data, that was the wrong thing to put me on. Like, listen, I mean, he doesn't 3-putt. Actually, no. You know what? I just found an error in the R data. It's not an error because the value is correct, but it's ranking it incorrectly. He's actually really bad at three putting. I can't find something. I can't find anything to get excited about here.
He's pretty solid in par 3 scoring.
He's making 11.9% more 20 to 25 footers than the tour.
Then where?
Than the tour. He's making 11% more 20 to 25 footers. Yeah, he's okay at par 3 scoring.
I'm still with you, Zach.
Listen, I'll join in the fun so that when he's there on Sunday, I'm not the asshole that's not involved. But the data is not pointing me in the direction, and if that's what we're following. But I get that, if he likes the course, he likes the course.
So, who I was looking at this week, and the data doesn't really support this, but this is one of my old, the pedigree of the player at his price, at his potentially low ownership range. Who might be interesting this week and could surprise people is David Lingmerth at 7,300.
Yeah, he's his name popped up, and now that you said it, I'm probably gonna have to get a little exposure to him because he's a guy that I saw the name, I saw some of the numbers, I was like, oh, not bad. And I didn't really dig, and now that you're mentioning it, I'm probably gonna have to dig a little more because if it's popping up to you, then there's probably things to look at. Nothing crazy on the R data side, but pretty good overall. He's definitely a guy that scrambles. In his last 6 starts, where'd he go? Hold on.
I think Chris brings up something interesting here, and this isn't supported by any data that I've done or any research that I've done, but again, by my favorite writer, he said any course that Webb Simpson decides to join as his home course probably doesn't put too much of an emphasis on having a solid putter. So I think you could get away this week with rostering some of those guys that do fantastically from tee to green with those with the putting woes. So
you know what I'll say? Something interesting. I was at TPC River Highlands for the Travelers last year, and in the Citibank booth, they did a putting test. And I told him my handicap, and then I sat up there, and I think he basically backhanded, insulted me by saying. So I basically went up there on the putting meter that they had this little machine, and I putted, and he was like, "You play mostly at one course, like you have your own course," and I was like, "Yeah, I pretty much play 90% of my golf, maybe 80% of my golf," and he's like, that made sense to him for some reason, which basically said to me, because I saw the pattern on the putting and it wasn't good. That you can putt well if it's your own course, but you probably don't putt well all the time. And I was like, so.
Hey, Zach, that's what I said to you earlier. That's why the dude carries 3 putters in the bag with him every round.
So. What are these guys? You're talking about some home course guys? Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Jonathan Bird. I mean, it's definitely a home course for a couple guys.
Who is it? Who are the local guys? Scott Brown's a local guy. Kokrak's very interesting.
I think Jonathan Bird.
Kokrak. Yeah, Kokrak burned me last year too. I remember. I think he needed to finish, I guess, even par in the last 3, and he bogeyed 2 of the last 3 after coming back from an atrocious first round. But I do like Kokrak a lot this week.
Yeah, I mean. Oh, no, it's one other person. Oh, just a side note. My Turk, Turk, right?
Yeah.
He got married at Quill Hollow. We had that wedding there.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a little side note, a little insider.
That's Turk at Reality Sports Online for any of you fantasy football guys out there.
Oh yeah, you guys. I'll give him a plug just because he's a good friend of mine from college. Played baseball, plays golf. I gotta give a little plug there. RealitySportsOnline.com. It's like the most intense fantasy football GM stuff you could imagine. So. A shameless plug for him. But and as far as the putting, I felt great putting the last couple rounds out there, Zach. I focused more on making sure that it's a gravity-driven pendulum than manipulating it. I think I've gotten into the habit of like hitting the ball and not putting it, and I think I've had some success just by working on that. So I'll keep my 5 Scotties. And of course, the problem with having 5 Scotties is you should have probably only need 1 if you can putt, because it's not the club's fault when it comes to that brand. So, yeah. Let's see. What else, guys? Paul Casey kind of wedged in there after disappointing everyone at what's it called, at RBC. Kind of just hiding under there. Listen,
for Casey, yeah. I mean, he's another guy that I think you get at deflated ownership levels this week too. It's just a matter, for me personally, it's just a matter of roster composition. Where I have like my 3 guys at the top that I want to pretty much be overweight, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to dip down to the 8,900 level too much. But yeah, there's I think this is a good buying opportunity for Casey this week.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think people are going to be off him because they felt burnt because he was like the top guy that week, and 8,900 really solid price. Especially people want to take Young Hunt on. Oh, and Zach, listen, I got Bob Rotella's every book's on tape. I don't think it's a mental thing. I think I just have to work on the mechanics. I just changed the grip because I expect to make every putt. Like I think like I'm a good putter. I just don't putt like a good putter. I don't know what else to tell you. Okay. Bob is a shit, to be honest.
Tiba putt. I don't even know what the hell you guys are talking about.
Tiba putt? What does that mean?
Just gotta take the Happy Gilmore approach. Just want me to put the ball in the hole. Trying to. All right, do we got anything else for the Wells Fargo? Like I said, I think it's going to be an easy night making rosters this week since pricing is soft and there's a lot of guys that I've already kind of reduced the field to the guys. Who's one guy that I like taking a couple GPP shots on this week too? And it's based on pedigree, based on, I think, he pushed some people off him over the last couple weeks with his form, is Danny Lee at 7,600. I think that's a great price for Danny Lee.
You're going to try him off with Danny Lee love?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Good Tiba. I mean, now these guys are all the chat's just basically pitching me putting aids. Well, I'm playing Valley High next Wednesday, which I'm really friggin' excited about. Last year, I got to play the Win course, and this is like the other one on the what's it called, on the strip. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I'll be out there next week. I'm gonna get some bets. I'm definitely gonna bet the players hard. There's no doubt if I can legally bet on it. Yeah, in Vegas. Why, you coming out to Vegas next week? You want to play, Zach? And then we have our Garrett Cup, which doesn't mean anything to anyone, but it's a Ryder Cup style thing that my baseball team from college, we got 24 guys go to a new location. It's going to be in Vegas this year. We're playing TPC Vegas, those places. So, Zach, come on, take the ride. What's that like? That's like a 2-hour drive from you. We'll play. Make it happen.
I'm playing Richter Park this weekend in Danbury, Connecticut, if anybody's interested.
Underrated course. If anyone has Connecticut.
It's a shit like Pete Dye style course where you have to hit irons out into the fairways and everything's a dog leg right or left.
Which makes me kind of wonder why you hate my course so much.
Because Glenwood is just shit.
Bobby gets angry when you can't play when you have par fives that you can't reach in 2. Drives him crazy.
I can reach every par 5 there in 2, pal.
Takes him out of his mental mindset when he knows that he's probably not going to be able to go for 2. You got 2 par.
What takes me out of my mindset is when you're forced not to hit a driver on a par 5 because it's literally like an acute angle from.
Listen, if you can't hit the ball off the tee, that's not my problem, Bobby.
Hey, Tiba Putt, why don't you go worry about your SGP over there?
Oh, Pete, I'm trying to think if Pete Dye courses. We're gonna put, just so you know, guys, and as we're signing off for next week with the players, we're gonna be putting out a ton of stuff on Pete Dye courses because it's obviously one of the most prominent courses on the tour, our Pete Dye style. So we're gonna put out all the data and just data specific to players on those courses. We're gonna feature everything around that, the articles and stuff like that. So.
And just for clarity, we're not saying that this is predictive or this is whatever analytical.
Yeah, no, we're not. Listen, we're not saying that.
It's just another like supplementary resource to use when trying to like decide between certain players.
Exactly, and we're just listen. How do people? If anyone happens to play Pete Dye courses more than another, that is what it is. But we have that information, and we're gonna make it available to people. So, with that, we'll sign off. Obviously, we're still on Twitter, FGmetrics, fantasygolfmetrics.com. Hit us up. Going to be doing the Periscope probably closer to like 10 o'clock. So. Make sure you stick around for these guys in the lineup building, and I will.
And as always, we're thanking Eric and Woodslurv, and always appreciate being on here talking to you guys.
Take it easy, guys.